They told you the story started with Adam. They were wrong. Hidden within the world's most ancient, untampered Bible, guarded for millennia in the highlands of Ethiopia, lies a forbidden prologue to creation, a chronicle of celestial wars, primordial worlds, and beings that walked the earth before humankind drew its first breath. This is not myth. This is evidence, a truth so explosive it was systematically erased from every other version of Scripture you know. What you are about to witness rewrites the genesis of everything. The veil is lifting, the silence is breaking. You were made for this revelation. You open the book of Genesis and read, "In the beginning." But you feel it, don't you? A profound gap. A haunting silence before the first dawn, the sense that something monumental is missing from the story. Today, that silence shatters. We are entering the vault of the Ethiopian Bible, the Ge'ez manuscripts, a tradition that escaped the purges, the councils, the editorial blades of later empires. Within its pages, time stretches backward into realms you were never taught existed. Before Adam was formed from the dust, there were worlds, there were watchers, there was a rebellion that scarred the cosmos. This is the prologue they deleted. If something in your soul recognizes this hunger for the full story, leave a comment with the word Enoch. Your voice tells me to keep opening these forbidden doors. But first, you must understand the scale of what was hidden. The opening chapter of your faith is a carefully edited summary. The real manuscript, the unabridged cosmic history, was deemed too dangerous. Why? Because it tells you that humanity is not heaven's first experiment, and that changes everything. Stay with me. The first veil is about to tear. Picture the cosmos not as a void, but as a layered palace of intention. Before the crafting of suns, before the dividing of waters, there existed a divine council. The Ethiopian tradition whispers of this, the meskel of God, the assembly of holy ones, and among them, luminous beings of fire and intellect, the Ion, or angels, charged with stewardship over a pristine, unpeopled earth. This is the hidden context. Earth was not empty. It was a garden temple for celestial beings, a mirror of heaven's beauty awaiting its human priests. But you are standing at the edge of a celestial crime scene. The peace was shattered, order fractured. The texts speak of a rebellion rooted not in a garden below, but in a throne room above, a schism in the divine family. The stage was set for a catastrophe so vast, its aftershocks would define all human history. And we, the children of Adam, would inherit a world already wounded, already haunted. This is the world before your world, a paradise held in trust, then broken. But by whom? And what happened to the original tenants? The answer is written in ink that outlasted empires, and it begins with a name, Enoch. The man who walked with God and saw what was before. Don't look away. The first witness is stepping out of the shadows. The architecture of pre-Adamic creation was geometric, musical, and alive. The Book of Jubilees, cherished in Ethiopia, details this. Angels were appointed over natural forces, over the rhythms of winds and seasons, over the harmony of creation. They were meant to be mediators, priests of a physical universe singing in chorus with a spiritual one. This is the invisible order, a seamless web of worship connecting heaven and earth. But a flaw entered the symphony. The Ethiopian Metzihaf Berhan, Book of Light, hints at a jealousy, a desire for autonomy that festered among the highest ranks. The very stewards turned against their purpose. Imagine it, the caretakers of light coveting the throne of the light-giver. This is the primordial treason. It wasn't about an apple. It was about a crown. The rebellion corrupted the stewardship itself, tainting the elements, twisting the nascent earth. This is why the Genesis narrative feels so abrupt. It starts after the fall of the First Order. The stage is already littered with the wreckage of a prior war. The deep was not just formless and void, it was traumatized. Tohu Wabohu describes a state of chaos resulting from divine judgment. Judgment on whom? The answer is coming. And it implicates beings you've been taught to see only as ministers of grace. What if some were prisoners first? The celestial prison doors are about to swing open. The rupture, the cataclysm, the event that echoes in every myth of a fallen golden age. The first book of Enoch, canonical in Ethiopia, delivers the testimony. It names the rebels, 200 watchers, sons of God, who looked upon the daughters of men, but not the daughters of Adam. This is critical. They looked upon the inhabitants of a prior, now lost order, and they descended. They broke the boundary between spirit and matter in a violent, illicit union. They taught forbidden arts, metallurgy for war, sorcery, the secrets of the cosmos meant for later epochs. They fathered the Nephilim, monsters, tyrants of the antediluvian earth. This was the second fall. The first was in heaven. This was its invasion of earth. The world before Adam became a hybrid nightmare, a laboratory of transgression. God's response was not creation, but containment, a cataclysmic restructuring. The flood of Noah was not the first purge. It was the final solution to a problem that began millennia earlier. Eden, then, was not the first garden. It was a quarantine zone, a clean room established within a contaminated world. Adam was placed into a guarded sanctuary with one command: do not eat. The real danger was already outside the walls. The forbidden fruit was a test of allegiance in a war zone. They didn't want you to know the war started long before. The evidence survived, and the consequences are written in your very bones. The aftermath was a scorched earth policy on a cosmic scale. The pre-Adamic world was dismantled, buried, reshaped. The giants were destroyed, but their spirits, the Book of Enoch claims, became the disembodied demons that haunt the world, the evil spirits issuing from their dead flesh. This is the origin of the demonic, not as eternal opposites of God, but as the ghostly remnants of a failed hybrid race. The earth itself was wounded. The ground was cursed not just for Adam, but because it had drunk the blood of the Nephilim and the innocent. This is the profound trauma woven into creation. You feel it in thorns and thistles, in natural disasters, in the very struggle for survival. It's not just human sin, it's the lingering poison of a pre-human catastrophe. And the watchers, the ringleaders, were bound in eternal darkness, in a prison named Tartarus, or the second heaven, as Ethiopian mystics describe. They are chained, awaiting final judgment, but their legacy, the knowledge, the corruption, the spiritual pollution leaked into human civilization. This is the aftermath we inherit, a world with a hidden history, a spiritual battlefield with ancient trenches. Every struggle you face has layers you've never been told. But the story doesn't end with judgment. It continues with a promise. A secret was preserved, a lineage of truth-keepers was established, and one man was taken to heaven to see it all. His name is the key to everything. The primary evidence is not a single verse. It is an entire library that other traditions locked away. The core of the revelation is the Enochian literature. 1 verse Enoch, the Book of the Watchers, the astronomical book, the Book of Parables. In Ethiopia, these are not apocrypha. They are Metzihaf Henok, scripture. They were copied and revered while elsewhere they were banned, burned, and labeled heretical. Why? Because Enoch's testimony makes the cosmic war explicit. He is shown the prison of the fallen angels, the geography of heaven, the history of the world, from its luminous beginning to its fiery end. He is given the solar calendar, a 364-day year that keeps human worship in sync with celestial time, a direct challenge to later pagan and political calendars. This book is a leaked celestial report. It names names: Shemihaza, Azazel, Barakijal. It details their crimes. It shows the mechanics of the rebellion. This is the testimony that contextualizes the cryptic verses in Genesis 6. The sons of God saw the daughters of men. That verse is a headline. Enoch gives you the full investigative report. The Ethiopian church didn't just preserve a book. They preserved a counter-narrative to the sanitized official history. But there is more. Another text, even more explosive, describes the very throne of God and the blueprint of creation before anything was made. And it reveals what or who existed in the very beginning, before even the angels. Enter the Kebra-Nagast, the glory of the king's Ethiopia's national epic. It weaves this pre-Adamic history into the destiny of a people and an artifact, the Ark of the Covenant. It claims the Ark's true power comes from the tablet of heaven, a celestial blueprint inscribed before creation. This tablet, this divine pattern, existed before Adam. It is the original design, the template from which all reality was derived. This isn't just lore, it's metaphysical architecture. It means the physical ark in Axum is connected to a pre-cosmic reality. The glory it contains is not just a presence. It is the imprint of the original uncorrupted order. This ties the entire sacred history together, from the pre-Adamic council to the fall, to the establishment of Zion as a restored foothold of that original order on earth. The Ethiopian tradition asserts it never lost this ark, this living connection to the time before the rupture. They are the keepers of the first pattern. This transforms the biblical narrative from a simple story of sin and redemption into a cosmic reclamation project. God isn't just saving humans. He is restoring the entire cosmic order that was hijacked before humanity even arrived. You are not an afterthought. You are a soldier in a war that predates your species. But how did this truth survive 2,000 years of suppression? The answer lies in a mountain fortress and a lineage that chose isolation over compromise. The keepers, the monks of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, in monasteries like Debre Damo, accessible only by rope, became the guardians of this forbidden knowledge. While councils in Rome and Constantinople debated canon and burned unapproved texts, scribes in the highlands of Axum and Lake Tana meticulously copied the Books of Enoch, Jubilees, and the Kebra-Nagast onto goatskin vellum. They paid for this isolation. They were labeled pre-Chalcedonian, outside the mainstream, and thus left alone. Their separation was their salvation. They became the ark for the texts the rest of the world tried to sink. They didn't just preserve words, they preserved a cosmology, a calendar, a liturgical rhythm that remembers the pre-Adamic war every time they chant. If you feel you were made for this kind of hidden truth, write in the comments, "Keepers," and share this with one person who also hungers for more. Your voice helps this buried story reach the ones who need it. These monks are the unbroken chain. They hold the memory of the first world. And then, in the 18th century, a Scottish explorer named James Bruce stumbled into their midst. And what he brought back to Europe would ignite a theological firestorm that is still burning today. The modern discovery. James Bruce returned from Ethiopia in 1773 with 3 copies of the Book of Enoch in Ge'ez. For the Western world, it was like recovering a lost chapter of reality. Scholars were stunned. Here was a text quoted in the New Testament, Jude 1:14-15, revered by the early church fathers, then vanished living and breathing in full form in Africa. The dam broke. Translations followed. The Dead Sea Scrolls discovery in 1947 confirmed its ancient authority, with multiple Aramaic fragments of Enoch found among the Essene's most sacred texts. This was no fringe heresy. It was mainstream Jewish thought in the Second Temple period, the very thought world of Jesus and the apostles. The evidence was now archaeological, not just traditional. The implications are staggering. It means the early Christian community knew this expanded narrative. It means Paul's references to principalities and powers, to the rulers of the darkness of this world, were not abstract. They were direct references to the imprisoned watchers and their hierarchy. The New Testament is saturated with this pre-Adamic backstory. We just lost the key to decode it. The Ethiopian Bible never lost the key. It's all there. What scholars are now realizing will rewrite not just ancient history, but your understanding of salvation itself. Because if the problem is older than humanity, then the solution is more profound than you've been told. The deeper truth. This is not about adding spooky details to the Bible. This is about correcting a fatal theological simplification. The problem of evil is not merely a human problem starting in a garden. It is a cosmic infection that entered through celestial rebellion and contaminated the very soil of creation before we were placed in it. This changes the nature of Christ's mission. He didn't come just to save human souls from personal sin. He came as the divine warrior king to defeat the usurping powers, to reclaim the corrupted cosmos, and to restore the original pre-rebellion order. His descent into the lower parts of the earth, Ephesians 4:9, wasn't just to paradise. It was, as ancient hymns say, to proclaim victory over the bound watchers in their prison, 1 Peter 3:19-20. His resurrection is the first fruit of a new creation that overwrites the corrupted pre-Adamic one. This is cosmic redemption. You are invited into a story vastly bigger than yourself. Your personal salvation is a vital part of this grand reclamation. You are being healed from a sickness that is millennia older than your ancestors. This realization shatters a small individualistic faith and launches you into a galactic-scale destiny. But this truth carries a terrifying corollary. The forces that rebelled are still active. Their offspring, the disembodied spirits, still roam. The war is not over. And you have a role to play. This isn't just ancient history. This is about the spiritual architecture of your life right now, your calling. You were born into this contested territory. The amnesia imposed by centuries of censored scripture ends now. Knowing this history changes your spiritual posture. You are not navigating a neutral world. You are walking through a landscape scarred by ancient battles, populated by spiritual entities with a long, bitter history. Your prayers, your worship, your alignment with Christ are not just personal devotions, they are acts of cosmic reclamation. You are restoring frequency to a corrupted signal. You are rebuilding according to the original pattern, the tablet of heaven that the Kebra Nagas describes. The Ethiopian saints understood this. Their intense fasting, their all-night vigils, their elaborate liturgy were not empty rituals. They were warfare against the old disorder. They were maintaining a clean space, a new Eden, in a world still feeling the aftershocks of the first fall. Your calling is the same, to live from the restored pattern, to reject the hybrid knowledge, the sorcery, the violence, the narcissism that the Watchers unleashed, to choose the tree of life over the stolen knowledge of good and evil. This is your purpose, to be fully human as Adam was meant to be in a world that has forgotten what that means. But to walk in this calling, you need proof. You need to see that this is not a metaphor. The evidence is not just in manuscripts. It is carved in stone, buried in dust, waiting for you to see. Physical traces look beyond the text. The archaeology of the antediluvian world screams of a lost, advanced, and catastrophic past. Massive polygonal megalithic structures, worldwide Baalbek, Saksai Huam, Göbekli Tepe stones cut and moved with impossible precision, dated to millennia before conventional history says civilization began. Global flood myths in over 300 cultures. Ancient maps like the Piri Reis showing Antarctica ice-free. The Sumerian king list, detailing reigns of kings that lasted tens of thousands of years before the flood. These are not random anomalies. They are the scattered bones of the pre-Adamic and Nephilim hybrid civilization. The Watchers taught advanced knowledge, and their hybrid offspring built with it. The flood was a reset, but the megaliths remained as tombstones. Even the Bible hints at this surviving tech. Noah's Ark, an engineering marvel, the Giza pyramids, possible repositories of pre-flood knowledge. The Ethiopian tradition points to the stelae of axomonolithic obelisks as symbols of this connection to a primordial, celestial wisdom. This is physical proof that the world you see is a palimpsest with an older, stranger writing underneath. The ground you walk on is a grave for a world you never knew. But not everyone wants this evidence examined. Not everyone wants you digging. Because when you find these bones, you start asking dangerous questions about the official story. And those who control the narrative have always feared the truth seekers. The opposition. Who suppressed this? The same impulse that seeks to control the story of origins. Early church councils, grappling with political unity and fighting Gnostic extremes, made a fateful choice. Simplify. Streamline the narrative. Focus on human sin and human redemption. The complex cosmic warfare narrative of Enoch was marginalized, then banned. Texts were burned. The canon became a fence. What was outside the fence was declared dangerous. But the real danger was to power structures built on a simplified, easily controlled faith. A faith that only looks inward to personal morality is less threatening to empires than a faith that knows it's in a cosmic war against corrupted spiritual powers. The Enlightenment then doubled down, dismissing all such narratives as primitive myth. The result? A twofold suppression, first religious, then academic. You were left with a neutered spirituality and a materialistic history. Both cages keep you from the full truth. The Ethiopian tradition survived because it was geographically and politically isolated. Its very otherness protected the truth. Now you know what they feared. Knowledge of the pre-Adamic war gives you back your cosmic context. It makes you dangerous to systems that thrive on spiritual amnesia. The question is no longer what they did. The question is, what will you do with this reclaimed memory? Will you close the book and go back to sleep? Or will you step into the legacy of the keepers? Your decision. This is the moment of choosing. You can treat this as a fascinating historical curiosity, a theological footnote, or you can let it recalibrate your entire existence. You can accept that you are part of a multi-millennia conflict between the original design and the corrupting rebellion. Your worship becomes defiance. Your purity becomes a protected zone of the original creation. Your hope becomes the certain expectation of a total cosmic renewal, not just a heaven for souls. This is the full gospel. If this revelation is reshaping how you see the sacred, and you want more forgotten texts and forbidden histories uncovered, say renewal in the comments, and follow this channel. Your support is what makes the next revelations possible. The path of the keeper is not easy. It demands discernment to reject the hybrid knowledge, the shortcuts to power, the occult, the narcissism that the Watchers introduced. It demands courage to hold a narrative that the world calls a myth. But it is the path of those who remember. It is the path of Enoch, who walked with God in a corrupted age. And it leads to one final, staggering secret about the very beginning, a secret that places you at the center of the story before you were even born. The final unveiling. Return with me to the very first moment, before angels, before the divine council, before the blueprint of creation. What does the Ethiopian mystical tradition whisper? It speaks of the Word, the Kal, existing in the bosom of the Father. And more, it speaks of the celestial Adam, the archetypal human, as a thought in the mind of God before the foundation of the world. This is the ultimate revelation. The pre-Adamic history is not just about other beings, it is a prelude to you. The human form, the image of God, is the original master design. The angels were servants of that design. The rebellion was, at its root, a rejection of serving that coming human destiny. You were the intention from before the beginning. The wars, the falls, the resets all of history is the turbulent journey to bring you, the image-bearer, into a cosmos prepared for your stewardship. The Ethiopian Bible, by showing you what came before, ultimately shows you who you were always meant to be, the inheritor, the restorer, the priest-king of a reclaimed universe. The silence before Adam was not empty. It was filled with the echo of your name. They tried to bury this, to make you feel small, incidental, a sinner in a petty drama. But you are the point of the story. The cosmos was broken in anticipation of you, and it will be restored through you, in union with the true celestial Adam Christ. This is the truth that was hidden. This is the glory that was kept. You were made for this. Now you know. Go and remember.